Okay, so this being said about the different paths of Tantra. So let us move on now with what is going to be relevant for you in traditional Tantra. Not just studying this philosophy or studying this training, but as a general awareness for any mantra practice that you might do, guided mantra from Shivoham Tantra, or even this can support you if you are doing mantra practice from other lineages or other systems, yeah? Now, let's have a look at what some of these key components, if you look at these paths of Tantra, you're going to see that a common practice is the use of mantra. There is no Tantra without mantra, okay? It even has the same roots in the word, as well as yantra. We have mantra, yantra, and the Tantra. Okay, so what is mantra? Let's just have a look step by step. Now, mantra is the sound vibration. It is sound vibrations. So you can have anything in this manifested world, and it has a high frequency sound vibration. We're not dealing with here sound vibrations that you hear in the everyday life. You know, the sound of the car or the sound of the musical instruments or the sound of even somebody's voice. Of course, when at a certain point we are chanting mantra with our voices, but when we are really understanding mantra, we understand that they come from a very refined source. They come from the universal sound. Now, right at the back of all mantras, it is known that the sound Om, which many of you know, Om, or we can also chant it, Aum. This sound vibration, you could say, is like the mother of all mantras. It is the sound before mantras emerge. Now, the way that mantras are perceived is when we get to a certain point within our practice, and usually this comes at more of a mastery level, through the depth of meditation, you can perceive the subtle sounds in the nada, in the sound hearing, and often they come as just very refined. And when you become so acute in being able to understand that, and your cosmic connections are open, your energy, your chakras are open, you can even download mantras. And this is how mantras like the Mahamrityunjaya mantra came into being. This is how all mantras came into being. The Gayatri mantra, all of these famous mantras that you know, they came into being because some rishi, some saint, yogi, yogini was in deep meditation and perceived and heard and downloaded that particular mantra. And you get some cases where somebody simply has that connection and they receive these mantras in whatever way that is from the guru or something like this. And so these are sound vibrations, and you can get very short mantras and you can get very long mantras. And both are very specific and relevant and necessary. These shorter mantras that we know as bija mantras, they are like seed mantras. So for example, we can speak about the chakras, and for each chakra, we have a particular seed mantra. It's like the core energy of the chakra. And it's the same with all. It's even the same with the Mahavidyas or anything. It can have just a core seed mantra. And it's very good to work with these when the knowledge of how to work with them are given to you in a correct way. At the same time, also know that there are long mantras. You can get a mantra for your chakras that is much longer than just one word. And what that often does is it encompasses more, it involves more of a specific energy activation, a specific purification when we use the longer mantras. So definitely both are valid on the path of Tantra. Now, if you've already started to use mantra, you will know that there are different ways that we chant mantra. There is the chanting of the mantra. Many times we are sitting in meditation, and the mantra can be chanted out loud, and it can also be chanted internally at the level of the mind. And the way that a mantra becomes effective is the more times you repeat that word or that phrase or that that combination of these sounds, the more you repeat it, the more it awakens the energy. And that awakening is a purification. That awakening is bringing in that light, or should we say revealing that light within us. Because sometimes, say we're using a mantra for Ganesh, okay, we can have a sense that we're chanting the mantra and we're calling in the energy of Ganesh. But get this, Ganesh is already in here. The whole universe is already in our subtle astral body. The chakras, the kundalini, everything is in here. What mantras do, by repeating these sound vibrations, it awakens this energy within us. It awakens and reveals that light that is often just lying dormant, because we concern ourselves with more physical things in everyday life. We concern ourselves with eating and socializing and just basically being active in the material world. But when we draw ourselves inwards with all the practices that we have in yoga and tantra, we start to get connected more and more with that inner subtle reality. And so mantra helps to purify and reveal these energies that are within us, these divine energies that are within us. And of course, if you can get some mantras that are for our highest good and connecting us with beneficial energies of the great divine mother, Shiva, Lord Vishnu, Brahma, like I've already mentioned, some of the other longer mantras, these mantras that are specific for awakening consciousness or bringing great healing inside. And of course, there is a flip side of this. There are also mantras that are sometimes used for not for the highest purpose. And then that definitely goes into a side of Tantra that we really do not want to be engaged with or concerned with. And so this is why sometimes if you are in India, for example, you say you're practicing Tantra, it can actually scare some people, because there are moments that people misuse the Tantra. They misuse the mantras, and they don't use good mantras that are bringing the light for yourself or for other people. And we don't need to talk about it too much. We just need to acknowledge that this is what happens. And sometimes this has brought a lot of fear around the path of Tantra. But of course, we're at a point when we study traditional Tantra where hopefully we've come through the basics of yoga, the path of yoga. We've covered the yamas and niyamas. We know what is right and wrong. And hopefully through our practice, we've become aligned enough to know what to use for the highest good and certainly what not to. So this is obviously just common sense that we can trust ourselves with, yeah? And I would say this is a part of the Tantra where we can say that we really need a guide. Many people nowadays, they get to a point in the spirituality where it's like, okay, I've had many teachers and I just need a practice. I don't really feel that I want a guru. And okay, I don't have anything to say to that. Everybody's life and their spiritual awakening is directed from from aspects of their individual will. But on the path of Tantra, let me say something really important, actually. Many, many times, not just Tantra, but yoga, also different spiritual paths. People rise, and as they rise, the spiritual ego inflames. And it gets more dangerous in Tantra because the energy becomes more increased. And when the energy becomes more increased, the energy goes in two directions. It can go into awakening consciousness and enlightening our awareness, or it can go in the ego. And quite honestly, most people are still developing the ego consciousness. We put a lot of emphasis on the egoic side of life, the materialistic side of life, the concern for ourselves, the delusion that we are separate from one another or separate from the divine. So when this happens, then there is definitely the potential to misuse the energy, to misuse mantra, and to misuse the practices. And again, this is why there is a kind of controversy in the traditional Tantra because of that. So I think if we can say this from the very beginning, then we can just always ask, we can stay in touch with friends or a guru and just say, look, I'm doing these practices now. Please just keep me in check. Please let me know if you can see that I'm coming out of alignment, or I'm getting too much in my ego with this. And this is the least that we can do, because the ego can be very tricky and can totally overcloud our judgments, especially as it doesn't want to see our faults and where, it's for some people it's very difficult to just say, okay, I'm wrong here, or I'm not thinking in the best way here. And so this is why actually within these modules there is also a self-inquiry section for us to have a look at this, so that if we are going deeper in the practices, we can really try to have a consistent, ongoing, honest self-inquiry with ourselves. Okay? And this is why having a teacher or a guru, that type of guidance, can point this out when it arises. Okay? And so, what to add? Anything more about the mantra? We use mantra in so many different ways. We use it in sitting meditation. We also use mantra when we are charging yantras. We also use mantra when we are doing a yagna, for example. We're doing a fire ceremony. A yagna cannot take place without repeating these divine sound vibrations. We use mantra, as you might know, in Bhakti Yoga, when we are singing and we are expressing our joy and devotion to life, to the universe. We are using mantra in order to awaken what I like to call that Shakti Bhakti inside of us. And a mantra can be used in prayer. It's used in different rituals. It can be used to support somebody who's leaving the body. Mantra can be chanted just as like a prayer, in for example, the Gnostics in the Christianity, they use mantras all of the time, but more in the form of a prayer. So it's not just like a kind of mantra meditation. It's done in a way of really infusing the repetition of these mantras with bhakti, with devotion. Keep focusing on that energy as a way of bringing more humility inside and more focus and recognition of the divine nature. So mantra, there's even more things to say, but let it be an unfolded discovery for you. Yeah, sometimes lots of information in the beginning can just become like an overfill. And if you do decide to go into traditional Tantra, then the practice of mantra, you will discover many different ways that it is used and how to use it also within a simple japa meditation. So I will speak about how to perform a japa meditation later in this discussion. But for now, I would like to move on to the subject of yantra. So with yantra, we have, I'm just showing you here, an example of a yantra. Now, with a yantra, if a mantra is a sound vibration of a particular energy, then the yantra is the visual light form of an energy. And if, for example, you see, how to put this, you see my physical form here, okay? This is my physical form. What would happen if we take away the body and then we go into like the core energy of my soul, for example? At a certain point, it's not going to have a form. It's a form that you recognize like this. It's going to have some type of original visual form, but it's not really going to be identified with the body. And if we take this to, for example, one of the gods or goddesses, you might see that Mother Kali, she has her form, Mother Tara has her form, and you can see they have the beautiful hair, the multiple arms that express different mudras, are holding different tools. But what happens before that form comes into that humanistic, personified form? There's something before all of that. And this is what is before all of that is the yantra. And basically it is a sacred geometrical form. And they're all quite similar. If you look into the Indian Tantra, they come into the form that we just showed, where you have the 4 gates, the vapor, around the central image. These 4 gates represent the directions. And then this is like a kind of casing. You could even say protective casing. And then inside is the yantra itself. And the yantra usually consists of triangles. Sometimes they're interlocking. They also consist of around the triangles that are what we call petals, spokes. And if you have listened already about the chakras, you'll understand that the chakras have these petals, these spokes. And basically, these petals are different Shaktis. They are different energies. And the triangles are also having different energies. And this is where, you know, when I said about the mantras, you've got the seed mantra. The seed mantra is like the very center point of the yantra. And that sometimes is expressed with a bindu, with a central dot, a point. And then all the triangles and the petals around are all different Shaktis. So if you get a longer mantra, then often that mantra is awakening in specific those different points of the yantra. The petals, the interlocking triangles or simple triangles, but it comes into a more detailed form. And these yantras definitely look very similar for the different energies. Sometimes they can even be the same, but what changes for them is how they are used with different mantras and how they are invoked and things like this. So there are different ways to use a yantra. One of them that we use mostly in the traditional Tantra is to create the form of the yantra using, for example, colored rice. Because obviously within, just like in the chakras, they have different colors. The same is for a yantra. There are different colors because of different frequencies of energies. Also, what we're doing in the traditional Tantra is creating yantra with wheat, sprouting wheat. Actually, it's more sprouted barley traditionally, but wheat can be used. And the yantra itself is made with planting wheat in the specific mandala form. And then we invoke the yantra with a particular mantra to enliven a specific energy. And then this wheat grows over 10 days. It's a minimum of 10 days that this yantra needs to exist to allow this Shakti, the energy, to build. Also with the growing of the grain. So as you can see, the yantra is actually created in this form. And of course, I know many of you have seen that you can even draw yantras. You can create a form of a yantra visually. And you can buy yantras on many different tools. Traditionally, they're inscribed on precious metals, like the yantra is there, and then they are put around the house or put inside a special fire ceremonial pit, a yagna kund. And they are even inscribed on the body. Actually, you can put yantras on your body. In traditional Tantra, we use herbs to do this, particular paste. I will speak about that in a moment. But we can put them on the body to help to activate the energy, to use this particular energy to purify certain parts of the body. And so these yantras are definitely used in many ways. I know in some systems they use yantras as a way to gaze at that form. So you would put a yantra there at eye level and literally just gaze in the form of tratika, where you hold a steady gaze and allow almost that imprint of the yantra to come in. Quite personally, I've not been practicing this method in traditional Tantra. Like I've said, we use the other ways of the yantra. And this is it. By creating a form of the yantra, we can then invite the form, not just the sound, into our bodies, into the space, but we are inviting the form through the yantra. Okay, good. Let's move on to just speak about these herbs that we talked about.